Extroverted intuition is a function that enables one to see numerous intuitive possibilities and act upon them, capitalize upon them. Now, if you are a person who has functions favored by the church, introverted sensing, extroverted feeling, let's say you're maybe an ISFJ who is in a position of authority or decision making, or I believe a lot of churches find them to be very comforting people to place in highest authority, whatever you think that is. They are opposed naturally to their own fourth function. Their own fourth function of extroverted intuition is unconscious, and it's uncomfortable. It's a difficult thing to work with. And so there could be ISFJs who are knowingly, intentionally trying to develop their fourth function, extroverted intuition. I'd love to meet one. Probably a fascinating person. Nonetheless, if you trust your first function, which is introverted sensing, you will constantly recurse back to it, like a person who has one leg shorter or longer than the other, who is trying to walk in a straight line and ends up walking in a long circle back to where they began. As a result, when put in a situation where, the old solutions aren't working, we need creative ideas, we need strong and innovative solutions, you will find that that person's even attempt to use extroverted intuition as a way to perceive alternative solutions. They recurse in a circle back to what is known, what is formulaic. A couple of examples. You could have someone someone has begun a church and they don't have the funds necessary to rent a building. They could consider the idea of renting space from the public school system to be much more creative than taking out a loan to buy a building, much more creative than meeting in homes, and innovative by a recursive introverted sensing standard. Even though to a primary intuitive that doesn't sound very creative at all, based on the small box they start in, it's on the edge of the box, maybe even outside of it. Also, I had a very silly illustration that I hope is more comedic and insightful than it is literal. Someone wanting to make a more creative way to have refreshments. And then someone says, ice cubes, but in different shapes. We could have cylindrical ice cubes. We could have circular ice cubes. We could have pyramidal ice cubes. You see how it seems creative and then it's different, but it comes back to, for one thing, the introverted sensing idea of ice cubes and how they make people comfortable, which is extroverted feeling. We're going to make sure people are, nobody has to have a warm drink. But look how creative, without being threatening, different shaped ice cubes would be. So there is a sense in which, from that perspective, extroverted intuition is kept sort of in a contained place, like a dangerous pet. Like if you were to keep a poisonous snake, it's fun to look at, but nobody wants to get the snake out and get to know the snake. Now, thirdly, much like the intuitive version of introverted sensing, there is a way that extroverted intuition is of great value as a first or second function to addressing the larger and more unusual problems of the world around us in a way that is beneficial to the gospel and beneficial to the health of churches. I believe that some of the most gifted missionaries and missional thinkers and apostolic thinkers have extroverted thinking somewhere, because it enables them to see possibilities and respond to them in a flexible way that's not bound to a culture. See, I think that trying to express the culture, express the gospel to another culture while being bound to our culture is profoundly self-destructive. That is, we can bring to them just the things that Jesus says. We can't bring to them, we as Christians only do this and this and this, it would be very interesting, perhaps, and discouraging to talk about all the ways that missionaries have brought church plus culture and damaged the relationship between the church and that receiving culture for centuries, in a way that I think greatly displeased God. That we're not supposed to make them white people, we're not supposed to make them Americans, we're not supposed to make them Republicans, we're not supposed to make them whatever subculture you are. You're supposed to make them disciples. And a person can be a disciple in the context of any culture, thank God. In the context of any ethnicity, thank God. In the context of any political perspective, thank God. So, I think that even that creates like a barrier. It creates like a, that happens out there. It doesn't happen in here, it happens out there. I once interviewed to work at a church in the Bay Area. It did not happen. I've only worked at 2 churches, I think. But I happened to be there and preach there, and on the same day as the 4th of July, and they had a quote-unquote outreach. But they had a white Midwestern American 4th of July party with hot dogs and bounce houses and other things. And what they really did was introverted sensing. Well, this is what would make me comfortable. This is what would make me a party, and me feel like it was a party. And they were an island of conservative white Christians in a very different culture surrounding them. It didn't even occur to them once that they were serving what would make them comfortable. And maybe it was fourth function extroverted intuition saying, we should make it fun, we should make it crazy. But it wasn't really reading anything about ways that would speak to the people around them and not just be a party for them. If I have blessed you, encouraged you, given you any equipping whatsoever, please like and subscribe.